What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Retro Hoop Collectibles. Today we're going to continue this series that I hope to do many more of. There's a bunch of other stuff out there. But you guys know I like oddball cards with a good story behind them, and this one is no exception. It's probably one of the more widely known cards that has a bit of a story behind it, but we'll get into it nonetheless. So, 1990-91 NBA hoops, which is, the peak, what some would consider the junk wax era in basketball cards. Couple of cards in that set carrying a very interesting story. One of which we're going to talk about today, and the other one, as many of you already know, we'll talk about next week and highlight a little bit more in detail. There's a lot of videos out there on a lot of these variations, errors, good story cards, and things like that. But my goal is to try to dig into it as much as possible, gather as much information as possible, and try to really tell the story. So what we're talking about today is going to be the 1990-91 Hoops Sam Vincent from the Orlando Magic. A relatively pedestrian NBA career, not really that much to talk about in terms of his accolades. However, completely immortalized in the entire set simply by having Michael Jordan appear on the card in a jersey that was not his own. So here we go, right here. All right. You'll notice it's a relatively simple card. Pretty decent action shot. Sam Vincent jumping over everybody. And you'll notice Michael Jordan down at the bottom. Basically trying to box out, waiting for a rebound probably. In a number 12 Bulls jersey. It's the only time you'll ever see him wear any other jersey other than the number 45 or the number 23. Hey, look, that might be useful later on in a sports trivia show or something. When they say how many, numbers did Michael Jordan wear through his career? And some people say 2, 23, and 45. And then you'll be wrong because he had to wear number 12 in this particular game. Now, what happened, this was it wasn't Thanksgiving. It was a Valentine's Day game. In 1990, the Bulls were in town in Orlando for a away game against the Orlando Magics. And his jersey came up missing. To this day, they never found out what happened to it, but jersey just came up missing. The story goes that the Bulls sent somebody out into the crowd and to the fans and stuff like that, and basically trying to search for anybody with a Michael Jordan jersey big enough to give to Jordan so that he can wear it during the game. Came up empty, and of course Jordan had to wear a nameless number 12 jersey for the remainder of that game, or for the entirety of the game. And then that's kind of how the story came about. Now, it would have just been a blip in the radar. However, this particular photo was taken by one of the photographers. NBA decided to use it for his card, and here we go with an interesting story on a relatively interesting card. So, once again, not really much else going on with it. Pretty interesting though, because it's again the only game that Jordan ever wore a jersey other than 23 or 45. It only happened one time, and it just so happens that it got printed on one of the more widely printed sets in basketball card collecting history. Right, so it's like at the peak of the junk wax era. Some people would say the peak. I mean, 90-91 was kind of getting into it. At the time, you really only had Hoops and Fleer, and that was it. Actually, Skybox was barely getting into the mix at this time. So there really wasn't a whole lot of manufacturers out there printing like crazy. So prior to this, you had, this was 90-91, so this was NBA Hoops' second season or second year offering a basketball card. The first being their inaugural season, 89-90. Prior to that, Fleer was the only game in town in terms of NBA licensed basketball cards. So even though they printed the hell out of them, there just really wasn't a whole lot of them out there. So for the 1990-91 season, the only Michael Jordan card that you can get came either from Fleer, Hoops, or Skybox. And, you know, that's kind of cool. Considering nowadays, you know, if you look at Zion Williams' 2019-2020 season, his rookie season, I mean, he has, I don't know, hundreds. I can imagine hundreds of rookie cards out there of different, you know, designs. Not the case for anybody who was a rookie in 90 and 91. So, like I said, pretty interesting card in my opinion. You know, we have Michael Jordan in a very odd situation where he's wearing a number that he had never worn before. And if you didn't watch that game that night and hear about the story, and you didn't know that this card existed, you'd never know that he wore number 12. So once again, not really a whole lot in terms of value, right? So we're talking about, you know, okay, this card has a very interesting story. What does that turn into in terms of rarity? It's not a very rare card. Again, 1990-91 NBA Hoops was a highly printed set. And so because of that, you know, you can easily pick yourself up a copy. So it's not that serious. It's not that rare, obviously. However, it doesn't mean, as we go over to Card Hedge, shout out to Card Hedge, appreciate the sponsorship and partnership from our boys over there at Card Hedge. Check out cardhedger.com. Link is in the description if you guys want to sign up for the tool. But we'll check out this particular card. I might have to send them a picture so they can upload it. But, I mean, PSA 10 versions of this go for $200. Again, we're talking about 1990-91, right? Really cheap printing. You know, they're not the greatest of cards, right? It's not impossible to get a 10, but I would probably venture to there not being too many out there. Let's look at the pop report, actually. Yeah, 848, 300 of them in a PSA 10. So total of almost 2,000 graded, only 300 of which are a PSA 10. So a little over 12, 13%, I guess, if my gorilla math serves me right. A lot of 8s, I would imagine, a lot of 9s. You know, right off the bat, when you open up a pack, they're not the best condition. So relatively, I would say relatively low pop count if you can grab a PSA 10. They're going for about $200. 150, 190, 180, 160, 160, 190, 180, right around there somewhere. If you look at the entire history of it, yeah, they're hovering around 180, 190 bucks, 180 bucks, 160 bucks. So, you know, a relatively cheap card to get that has a really good story to it, in my opinion. These are the types of cards that I'd like to put into a, you know, collect 3D prints case, throw it up on the shelf. Somebody walks by and goes, "Who's Sam Vincent?" And then you go, well, nobody really knows who Sam Vincent is. But if you look a little closer, you'd see why that card is important. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If, you know, if this is a card that you have in your collection. I have two. I have one in a SGC 9 and another one in a... I have a couple. Obviously, I got several raw cards, but what are they going for raw? Let me see. Raw, they got to be going for a few bucks. Ooh, not much. Yeah, we're talking about $5 at the most. So relatively cheap card to buy. Pretty cool card to display. You know, not too bad. All right, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you guys have this card in your collection, if you do you have a PSA 10? Excuse me. Do you have a PSA 10? Are you displaying it? And is it a good conversation piece? I think it is. Next week, we're going to talk about the other card within this set that is a lot creepier and has a much creepier story. So, as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm really bad at asking about that, but would appreciate it if you guys did. And as always, I love y'all. Peace.